Dios ha muerto. Que fiestas de expiación, que juegos sagrados tendremos que inventar. No es demasiado grande para nosotros la grandeza de esta hazaña. No debemos nosotros mismos convertirnos en dioses simplemente para parecer dignos de ello. Son Loathsome Things, un podcast de películas de terror con sus confitriones Josh y John.
Go! Esta lasagna. That's what it sounded like you said. Hey, buenos dias, mi amigo. ¿Cómo está, Josh?
I think in Spanish it's yo soy.
Josue.
Josue.
Wow. In Portuguese, it's João. But really, it's, no, for John, it's João. I guess they say João, but the Portuguese equivalent is João.
João.
Yeah.
I like that. It sounds like a car went by fast.
It's a lot cooler than me.
João.
Nice.
All right, so it's a horror movie podcast. Today we're covering a horror movie from Argentina.
Ay, caramba!
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
What movie would that be, John?
It's funny you ask, because I was just thinking about the movie that we're about to talk about. What the fuck I'm talking about?
Yes, we were, and you were.
It's a little película from Argentina named Where Evil Lurks, directed by Demián Rugna? Probably Rugna, I don't know.
Rugna. Demián Rugna.
Well, we'd probably say Rugna, but I'm guessing the G and N is like a nya, so it's like Rugna.
Demián Rugna.
Or it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, just rugging them Rugnas.
Yeah, Demián Rugna.
Yeah.
Yeah. There goes all our Argentinian fans.
It's all gone.
Hear that sucking sound?
There they all went.
That's it.
It's When Evil Lurks.
Fine film, brand new, just came out stateside. I don't know. Probably been in theaters in Argentina for a while, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. But it's the second feature directed by Demián. And he also made, what was it, Terrified? Which also got a lot of hype when it came out. I watched that one as well. It was okay. It had some cool stuff in it. Overall, was not that super impressed, to be honest. It wasn't. Yeah. It didn't live up to the hype. This one, however, does.
Yeah, it does. I actually went back and I rewatched Terrified after going through the review process for this, and I was like, you know what? I don't feel familiar enough with that movie. Let me go back, and you could make a strong argument for this being a sequel to that movie.
Interesting.
But it's not necessarily a sequel. But there's a similar amount of secret order of people that know how to do spirit stuff and have weird brass instruments to help them do it.
Interesting. It's funny how you can learn things about a director if you watch enough of their films. Like Rugna apparently has a thing for weird secret spiritual orders that fight evil and carry brass nautical implements. And he has a thing for demons, and he really does not like children.
Yeah, not into the kids is this guy.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we should probably do a content warning. This movie does not just endanger children, it kills them brutally on screen and then shows bad things happen to their corpses.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah, if in this movie there's 7 rules of things you don't do when there's a demon possession, it kind of reminds me of the unwritten rules of filmmaking. You don't graphically show deaths of children.
Yeah.
Unlike Demián Rugna, who fucking goes balls out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's startling. And he intends it to be, and he achieves that goal. Like, it is wild. But it's not for everyone. I'm a little worried for our friend Ramon. Like, we told him to watch this movie. I don't know if this is going to be a Ramon flick.
Probably it might be up until about the, I don't know, a minute and a half mark, and then he's probably done. Because, as I said, Rugna pretty much takes his huevos out of his pantalones and drags them all over the place.
Yes.
Woo! This movie is awesome.
It's fucking tight.
Yeah, it's it really lives up to the horror movie of the year description.
Yeah, that's not to say it's without flaws. It's got some flaws. We will go into them at a certain point. We're going to sound like we hate this movie, I would assume. Yep. But we don't. We actually think it's pretty neat.
We don't. I pogo-sticked my way in from the one room to the other and then Spider-Man'd all over this one just thinking about it while I was setting up my computer. I whipped myself all over the place.
Just doing some Jack Black cock push-ups. Alright, do we need to go over anything else? I don't know any of these actors. I don't know anything.
No, the only actor that I've seen before that I know of for sure is the actor that plays Leo. I don't even remember which character Leo was. But his name is Federico Lis, and he was in an Argentinian film called Wild Tales, which is very good.
Nice.
The director made he made a movie called Satanic Hispanics, which I have to see.
Oh yes.
He made or no, he didn't make it, but the guy that plays Jamie or Jimmy as they call him was in a movie called Bienvenidos al Infierno. Welcome to Hell, and Punto Rojo. And he was also in a movie called The Unburied Corpse. So,
nice.
Some interesting stuff coming out of Argentina that I have to say I knew nothing about.
Yeah, I think this is definitely our first Argentinian film.
Yeah, I like Argentinian dramas. I'm a big fan of the Argentinian movie star, whose name, of course, I cannot remember right now. It's fuck it, I'll forget it. But anyways, he's a huge star there, and he was in Wild Tales, as a matter of fact. So I've seen a ton of his movies, and I've seen a couple other Argentinian films, and I guess Terrified was probably the first Argentinian horror that I've seen. Maybe another one about a haunted house that sucked balls. So yeah. Anyways,
it's good.
Yeah.
One big surprise for me was I didn't realize that berets were still in style in Argentina, and I gotta say, I approve. That's a fucking look, and we should bring it back here.
Yeah, Argentina is one of those countries that continues a very noticeable European influence. The Spanish and the Italians still, they're kind of have a cultural, like you see a lot of architecture that looks like that. There's something still very European about Argentinian culture, as far as I can tell. And
I had to look it up because, like you said, the architecture. I was like, wow, I guess they're in Spain, and then I had to look up and like, oh no, it's Argentina.
Yeah. Ricardo Darín. Ricardo Darín is fucking awesome. He's a great actor, and he's always good. So that's my
nice.
my sum total knowledge of Argentinian cinema, I guess, except this and Terrified.
Nice. All right, John, you want to kick us up? Would you like to kick us up with the beginning part of our summary of Un Film?
So the movie opens. We see these two guys in a house. They're brothers. They're hearing gunshots outside at night. They're able to tell somehow that it's a revolver and not a rifle or a shotgun. So that rules out this being hunters, according to them. Then they decide that we'll leave at dawn to go search. Yeah. So whatever. So then we get the opening credits. We get like a kind of a real foggy shot of a Argentinian countryside, which is beautiful. And then as the credits roll, we get like kind of an overhead shot. We see the guys leaving. They're searching. They come across in some underbrush or whatever, wooded area. They find the bottom half of a bisected body as well as a mangled hand. sitting on top of a branch, if I remember. But they're not sure who it is, obviously, because it's just half a dude. There's also a box of some strange brass items that they are unable to identify. They also find a journal that has all kinds of stuff, some maps, some photocopied documents, some photocopy ID cards, some text that they say it looks like it's in Russian, which I guess they meant Cyrillic. Whatever, I'm a douche. And, sorry to get pedantic there.
You assholes!
It's Cyrillic, you prick. They work their way towards a shack, and which is really the only way I can describe it. It's somebody's home, and the dogs there are freaking out. A woman named Magdalena comes out to meet them. She and her younger son are awaiting somebody who's supposed to arrive to kill her older son, Uriel, but now he's not going to make it because he might be cut in half in the middle of a woods somewhere. They go into the shack and they see Uriel laying in bed. He is a grotesquely overweight, bald man, middle-aged man, I guess. He's so covered in pustules and gross discolorations that it's kind of hard to tell his age. He's like leaking yellowy pus wheeze out of the corner of his mouth. It's really, really disgusting. Great effect.
Yeah.
Magdalena tells them that he is a possessed, as they call it. So he's possessed with a demon, supposedly, and that he's rotting, and that praying does no good, which I think refers to the tagline refers to that. Praying will not help you, or something like that.
Yeah.
They tell the two brothers that they kept this guy alive for probably over a year before they reported, his symptoms, I guess, or whatever, they think is wrong with this guy. So the guys head off. They're in a pickup truck now. They go off to find this person that they reported this to. It's the cops. They reported it to the cops. So they go to find the cops. They're at the police station. The cops are being kind of cagey and kind of, like shitty copish.
Yeah.
These guys want him to call the mayor, and they're like, we're not doing that. Then they kind of get into an argument with the police chief, I guess. There's two cops. One is the chief. So they get into an argument with the chief about someone who had died in the past. Apparently, Pedro, the guy with the beard, was involved in this somehow. So, he's like a douche now in town. The cops start talking about a guy called a cleaner who is sent by the quote-unquote ministry, apparently, to fix things up when these kinds of things happen. They refuse to go see anything. They basically, as the guy says, they wash their hands of it. So the brothers head off to a farm. They refer to the halvesies guy as the cleaner, and they say that, quote, someone is preventing him from cleaning. They say that the cops told them to stay mum so that the, quote, ministry will send another cleaner. They're talking to the farmer, Armando Ruiz. He says that they, referring to the demons, make the dogs go loco, and that the state wants his land. They're behind all this, and that the brothers should leave while they can. It's a little confusing, and doesn't matter that much. Yeah. It would be cool, I guess, maybe if he got a little bit more into this government conspiracy thing, but this movie really sets up a sequel, so maybe he'll get into it there.
Yeah.
Whatever. So now we cut to Armando, or Ruiz, and his wife. They're sitting at the dinner table. He's frustrated with the situation. He's upset, so he gets up and storms out and heads over to Uriel's place with a shotgun because he's going to kill him. But Magdalena says, if you do that, you're only going to spread evil. You can't, kill him with a gun. We have to have a professional do it. Which, again, is, Ruiz already knows this, as far as I can tell. And there's a lot of stupidity, particularly with the male characters in this film, who are very, what's the word, like stubbornly stupid about things.
It's that machismo.
Yeah, right, yeah. So we find out that essentially Uriel is pregnant with the demon, and they have to kill him the correct way by using a cleaner before the demon is born, because then really bad shit's gonna happen. Although apparently, I never know what that is sometimes in these movies, because really bad shit is already happening.
Yeah, it's very vague, but not in the worst way.
No, it's cool, and so
it's fine.
It's great. The pregnant Uriel demon is begging Ruiz to kill him because, of course, he wants the demon wants to come out. Before he says before the demon moves over to his mother, Uriel's mother. Ruiz is all spooked, freaks the fuck out, and he wants to tell the brothers that they all need to take Uriel away and kill him a good distance away from their homes, which is an incredibly dumb idea. It makes no sense why taking him away from his home would help. Which, and of course it doesn't, spoiler alert. There's this really disgusting scene where they load Uriel up, like lift him off the bed with a sheet, and he's like pus leaking through the sheet into the ground, and the sheet tears because he's so heavy. It's really gross.
Yeah.
And they wrap him up in like a blanket or a carpet or something and put him in there. There's pus everywhere.
And bullets. He's also like leaking bullets, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
They drive, I forget how many kilometers they say they drive, 300 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But at some point they decide that they are now far enough away, which makes no sense, or just about far enough away. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, they hit a Deus Ex Machina right in the middle of the road. And, I meant a kid.
Yeah.
And then they keep driving. They stop in the middle of fucking nowhere because they're going to drop Uriel in a ditch, but he's gone. So it occurs to them that the kid that they almost hit when they swerved to get out of the way, somehow Uriel fell out of the truck. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Ruiz says, fuck it, we've driven far enough, even though earlier he said they didn't. We're done. Let's go home. And that's movie over.
Yeah.
No, wait. Okay, so we cut to Pedro's brother, Jamie. He's drinking beer at night, sitting around looking at a bullet, because there's a lot of bullet symbolism that don't symbolize anything in this movie. Pedro takes a shower. Later, we see him alone sitting at a table, kind of looking out this... He opens a door. He's smoking, drinking, looking out the door. He kind of looks away for a minute, and the door closes itself. It's just closed, basically. You don't even hear it close. Yeah, it was dumb. This movie has I don't think it has a single jump scare, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I expected one a few times. It didn't have it. And that's one of the strengths of this movie, by the way, is that there's a couple scenes, particularly in the middle of this film, where the guy builds an incredible amount of tension.
Yeah.
And then when he lets it out, it's some of the most glorious horror action I've ever seen in my life. But anyways, so Jimmy is now dicking around with the brass Dumaflachi, that thing that they found in the box. He took it with him, I guess. So.
Yeah, I think that's funny too, because like when they found this kit of like basically like we know that Demián Rugna has a sexton at home. You could just tell at this point, like he does. And they're going through all of this stuff, and for some reason Jaime has picked up the single most boring piece of brass, and he's like, this looks familiar. And it's like, dude, that other stuff is way cooler looking. There's like dials and shit that looks like Leonardo da Vinci's telescope. Like, come on. And he's like, what about this little pivoty piece? I like that one. Anyway, so back at Ruiz's farm, Ruiz's wife points out an evil goat. There's a field of goats. She points at one. He points a gun at that goat. All the other goats leave. That goat does eyeball staring with him. There's a shot from behind him where there's like devil horns growing up out of his head. It looks really good. And he's gonna shoot the goat. His wife is like, no, don't shoot the goat. And then now we see she's super pregnant, and so she's waddling away from the situation as fast as she can to get a wood axe. If you've seen the cover of the movie, you know where this is going. And so he shoots the goat in the face, and then she chops him in the side of the face with the axe, and then turns the axe on herself and gives herself a good 5.5 whacks in the face.
Oh, that whole sequence is just beautiful. It's so good. The effects are amazing. Like she hits herself with decreasing levels of strength because she's dying.
Yeah. And
at the very end, she's about to go for a final blow, and she just falls over dead. But like, it's so cool. You see the cut, and then it starts to bleed. Like that moment where the body's like, oh, I just got cut in the face. I need to bring all the blood out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, if she hacks him in the face, like his eye kind of like turns sideways, it's like, it's beautiful.
Yeah. No, this guy is like nailing it on the cuts, and the camera changes. Like, it is killer awesome. I fucking love this movie.
Whoever did the makeup effects in this film, the guy deserves an Oscar.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Especially with hers. Yeah. You're right, because it's that last one where it, like, the axe almost makes it all the way to her face for that last whack, but then she just collapses, and so good, so very good. Okay, they find out about this through Uriel's little brother. It doesn't really seem like it matters, and in fact, it really kind of doesn't. The brothers devise a new plan. They're going to go into town. They're going to get Pedro's kids and then get out of here because this whole place is fucked. He forces his way into his ex-wife house and immediately gets naked and asks for clothes before anything else. And so it comes out that he's been kind of like a shit ex-husband and hasn't been paying his child support, and they haven't even heard from him in like years or something, and now he just
but which is weird because she's got a restraining order against him. It's like, why would you hear from him?
Yeah, there's like stuff here that we're not getting, and that's fine. I bet it's boring stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I really don't care that much. The idea comes across.
Yeah, and another person here. So it's his ex-wife Sabrina and the guy you were talking about, Leo. That's the new husband.
Oh, that's Leo, yeah.
Pedro has 2 sons with Sabrina, and then she has a younger daughter with Leo. And they have a big old dog. Real good dog. Like a Turner, like a Hooch from Turner and Hooch.
Yeah,
top-notch dog. And so while they're arguing, Vicky is petting the dog. He's gotten new clothes by now. He's burnt his old clothes. They're like, dude, you're fucking crazy. You have to get out of here. But now they're just arguing. She's petting the dog, and then the dog turns to her and chomps her head.
Oh, the child?
Yeah, chomps down on Vicky's head, carries her away, and we can hear her screams muffled because her scream maker is inside the dog's giant mouth. And the little boy is there. Santino sees it happen, and he's starting to freak out. We see another little shot of the dog just like shaking the girl to death underneath the table.
By her head?
By her head. It is intense.
When I mean, you see it coming, and the tension is really building because the woman that plays his ex-wife is a great actor.
Mm-hmm.
Her stress at him being there and her having no idea what he's there for and freaking the fuck out. It just is building and building, and in the meantime, the camera keeps showing the dog, who you know is possessed, and the little girl is standing next to the dog, and then you get the camera shot of the wife freaking out at the ex-husband, the little girl with her hand on the dog, and just, you know it's coming, and then out of nowhere, the dog just goes, right on her face, and it is, oh my God, it's brutal. It's the only time in my entire life that my hands went up to my face like a little kid, and I went, oh!
Yeah.
I've never done that before for any reason, and that I knew it was coming, and it freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah, because it's they build it up, so they tell you it's happening. They tell you it's going to happen. So many shots back and forth where it's like from the perspective of them arguing in the other room, and you can see the girl and the dog in the background, and then the opposite angle where it's from behind the girl and the dog, and back and forth. And so it's like, hey, this is the thing that you're supposed to be paying attention to. You still don't think they're gonna do that, and then they do, and it's fucking great.
It's fucking great. This whole section that starts with Ruiz and passes through this whole bit that Josh is talking about right now is among the greatest scenes of any horror movie ever made. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then runs out of the house carrying her limp body still by the head. Everyone is freaking out. Pedro and Leonardo run out of the front door to look to rescue the girl. The dog is already fucking gone, and so they're just now running around the suburbs looking for this dog and the little girl. We see Leonardo shoot the dog, and the little girl, Vicky, has come back, and she's perfectly fine. She whispers to her mother that Daddy's gonna kill you, he's gonna come back and kill you. And so Pedro while this is going on, Pedro loads his children into the car, steals Sabrina's car and drives off. And as he's driving away, he sees in the rearview mirror that Leonardo is in his pickup truck, and he slams it into Sabrina and just completely pulverizes her. He is bleeding out of his head as Vicky is off on the side dancing and twirling, which Sabrina was holding the little girl, so it really looked like they got both of them, and then she's just fine and dancing and having a grand old time, and like Pedro's seeing this happen as he's driving away, and he's just like, oh fuck.
Boy, did I get out of there just in time.
Yeah. He goes then, and he picks up Jaime and their mother, the kid's grandmother. She's very excited to see her grandkids, but she's also being very sensible. She's like, wait, is this Sabrina's car? Is Sabrina okay with you having the kids? What kind of agreement did y'all come to? But she's also just very happy to see the grandkids. We see her playing with this little charm necklace that she has where it's a little happy family and children, and she just always plays with it, and it makes her, it's like her little comfort dealie. And so they end up driving away. Santino asks about like what all is going on. So Grandma expositions the rules. There are 7 rules, in fact. 1, don't use electric lights. 2, animals. None of those. Don't use or have or touch things that were close to the possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hurt them. Don't say their names. And then she goes ahead and says all of the names of Satan, which is tight, but even the kid's like, Grandma, you're saying their names. And don't use guns because gunpowder, not good. No. And then the last one, after some little confusion about forgetting it, it's don't fear death because they know your fears better than you do. So
that one's a little vague.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, I won't fear death, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, and don't hurt them. Okay, I'll just, I guess we'll just let them do whatever they want.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, it's good. And then, they stop. They're looking for apple-flavored ice cream for Jair because that's what he wants. And he's in the car and he's moaning, Azrael, over and over. And then Sabrina calls. Pedro gets out of the car to take the call.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Because clearly she's, sure, she got smashed between a pickup truck going probably 40 miles an hour in the front of her house. And, sure, she's probably been flattened into a blood paste, but now she's calling.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like the beginning of the fact that Pedro may be the dumbest man that's ever lived. And I don't know if I guess, in retrospect, I thought, okay, well, maybe it's just because the demon is fucking with his head, because, there's a character we meet later that explains that, certain people, I guess I'll say, can't have their heads fucked with by demons, and everyone else can, essentially. But it's never really implied that it's just basically, you're just basically shown the fact that Pedro's a total fucking idiot.
Yeah.
So, whatever. So, of course, it's Demon Sabrina on the phone. It's not regular Sabrina. She wants the kids. She starts, pressing him for the kids. Then she starts insulting him, telling him that he's a piece of shit and that he's a terrible person, and it's pretty nasty stuff. He gets upset because he's a moron and trashes the phone, which is probably a good idea. Yeah. That was a good idea. And then he kind of has like a reality check moment where it occurs to him that he's the dipshit who brought evil to his ex-wife. So he cries. Great. Jaime suddenly knows that it occurs to him suddenly, out of nowhere, Deus Ex Machina, that there's someone who might be able to help them and give them money.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever. So they arrive at this house. This lady comes out. Her name is Mirta. She's older than the brothers considerably. At first we don't really know why Jaime even knows her. But anyways, she has no power in her house. That's good because that was by choice, because of the whole power thing in Demons. Except it was originally just lights, but okay.
Yeah.
And then, she wants to. She decides that she wants to take them in. She's gonna house them. Pedro's like, "Nah, man, we gotta go. Fuck this shit up. Even though you can probably help us, so fuck you." And then, she says, "Yeah, I'll give you money," but she can't get her money because it's in the bank, and the bank doesn't open until Monday. So now they kind of have to stay. And Jaime convinces Pedro to stick around. So Jair needs changing his pants, I'm assuming. So they change him and give him a bath, and then they have to stay because of these things essentially. So Jaime tells Mirta about the experience that they've had seeing a possessed person. She's not completely convinced yet, which okay. Granny stays in the car with Jair because he doesn't want to get out of the car, so Granny stays with him. They can't sleep. The brothers stay up because they can't sleep. Apparently Grandma can sleep really well. That's great. Well, no, that's later, I guess. Okay, so anyways, Pedro is kind of like he's giving Jaime basically a hard time because, as we discover, Jaime and Mirta had hooked up years ago.
Yeah.
That was an odd thing. He's like teasing him about it because, the world isn't coming to an end, so you might as well tease your brother about having sex with an older lady.
And it never comes around again.
It really doesn't. It's not important. They could have just said, "Oh, she was his teacher, whatever. She was a friend, whatever." It doesn't even matter. Who cares? Somebody back at the car, we see somebody come up to the car who looks an awful lot like Sabrina, covered in blood. Granny's and everybody else in the house is asleep finally, or whatever. The woman walks up to the car, puts her bloody hand on the car. It is Demon Sabrina. She's come for her children. She already has Santino, the younger one, and she looks quite assy because she's been smashed. So Granny wakes the brothers up. She's freaked the fuck out. She's very scared of fake Sabrina, who was in her room basically with Santino. And then Pedro runs upstairs, finds Sabrina upstairs. He's trying to talk to her, but it's not happening because she's a demon. And then she takes the boy and jumps out the window, kind of like when they shoot Michael Myers out the window in Halloween, except she chooses to go out the window. And then, just like Halloween, they run downstairs and she's gone, and took the boy with her. Pedro smashes the car window because I guess Jair's locked in, and to get him out. And Mirta tells him that Jair is possessed now, and she can tell because his fingers are twisted. Okay. She busts out her cleaner kit. She's a cleaner, everybody! She explains that the rotten still need to be cleaned as soon as possible because the demon will be born. Its spirit is out now, but eventually when its physical form is released, then it's really going to get bad.
Then
but
it's
we
on.
don't know. We don't know in what way because no one ever fucking tells you.
Yeah.
Great. So that's whatever. She calls them idiots or imbeciles because they moved Uriel from his place of demon. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, who cares? Whatever. I don't know if the implication is that that somehow spreads the evil, but it's spreading anyway. So Mirta she notices that the power is shut off in town, which I'm guessing means the government is aware of what's going on, so they've shut the power off in town to keep the demon evil from spreading or something. Yeah, by keeping the power. Yeah, that's a little vague. Again, she warns them not to go into town. And then if they do drive, because of course they're going to, no headlights. Yeah. And then she tells them this story about how she and her former husband ran a scam church for money, that then they were fraudsters, And that one day a possessed person came to them who she thought was an actor they'd hired. But then she realized that he actually is possessed because he just all of a sudden barfs up the family he had eaten the day before. And as a result of this, she now knows that God is dead. I mean, it's... Yeah. Okay, that's great. It makes no fucking sense. Whatever.
Yeah.
But just to add to that, snakes appear. Whatever. To her, she's telling the story to her and her husband. And then she suddenly starts talking about how monks tell them that you must kill the possessed or the rotten or whatever before the demons are born. And that for 12 years they went around doing this. And that they ultimately took responsibility for the damage they did to the, quote, faith.
Yeah.
It makes no fucking sense. It's just like, dude, you were on a fucking roll, and then all of a sudden you, like, ran into a fucking dead end called Myrta. So...
so when... Do you think Jaime was, like, one of her weird followers when she was running a scam church, and so that's like part of like the grossness is he was a little kid and she was into him?
Yeah, I she's like the pedo fake church person / cleaner who apparently is appointed by God to kill demons. It's like, what?
Not by God, he's dead.
Oh yeah, he's dead. So, by whatever.
Yeah.
Powers of goodness, I don't know.
Monks.
But in the meantime, she's playing hide the salami with Jaime when he was a young feller. Yeah. Whatever. We're gonna move past this part. Demián Rugna just basically kind of lost it here.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, it flows. It still flows well. It's still, it's still cool. But it's just that this whole part makes no fucking sense at all. So now she's like, she wonders if. Again, this makes no sense. She wonders if the demon has infected this area because it's trying to find her. I guess to get back at her for killing it. Oh, just stopping it from coming, manifesting, I guess, whatever. Back at Jamie, who's still driving around, flicking his headlights on and off so he can kind of like anticipate where the road is going to go, I guess. Apparently, if you flicker your lights on and off for just like a second or so, that's okay. He sees somebody stumbling down the road away, kind of like in the direction that he's going. He slowly drives past, because if you slowly drive past, they won't notice you. And it's Demon Sabrina eating Santino. Just munching away.
But not just eating him. Like, if you've ever like walked around while eating a bag of chips, it's like that. She's holding him in one arm, she's popped off the top of his skull, and is just reaching her other arm down into his skull, and is yoinking out bits of brain and eating him like it's a bag of chips.
And to be fair, once you pop, you can't stop.
Oh, yeah, you can't just eat one Santino chunk.
No. Oh my god. So, Jaime plows her into a tree.
Yes.
And hurts himself, whatever. Pedro and Myrta can't find Puss Dude because they're out driving around trying to find him. But they do see a sign for a rural school, and Myrta says that the demon likes children, so they should go there. Because I guess children live in the rural school. That's not really explained. Another dumb thing. So back to Jimmy. He's at the tree. He's hurt. Gross Sabrina is she's on the hood of the car trying to fuck with him, doing the kind of the demon taunting thing. Back at Myrta's house, Jair comes out walking to Granny. He's talking normally. He's hungry. She freaks the fuck out, as probably she should. Meantime, Pedro arrives at the school. Myrta tells him to turn off the flashlight. She tells him to turn off the headlights, but then they're there, so he turns the truck off. Then he whips out like the giant flashlight, and she's like, "Dude, like, you kill the fucking flashlight. Like, what?" And then he pulls out his cell phone and lights that flashlight. And then then he pulls out a box of matches. It's like, dude, get the fucking hint. This is where Pedro just goes off the dipshit deep end.
He really does.
It's really bad at this part. The rest of the movie I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. But he's searching the church for a way in. He looks into this one classroom, and he sees a bunch of children sitting at desks, little school desks. They're all facing ahead. I thought they were staring, and it turns out their eyes are closed. But whatever. He starts checking for a way in. He finds a door that's unlocked. Boom, they're inside.
They wander around. They end up finding the room full of creepy kids. All of the kids have, like, white powder on their shoes and on their hands, and they're just being little creeps. They're all sitting in their desks looking at, like, where the teacher would be. It's like, they're all, like, weirdly discolored and stuff. Like, there's one girl where it just looks like her lips are bruised. It's all fucked. It's rad and creepy, but at this point, you're also a little irritated from what you've just seen. So it's like, yeah, whatever. They notice, or they see, and we notice, similar dust as what was on the kids' shoes and hands to what was coating the auditorium stage and curtains, but they don't put anything together in their brain, so they go back outside. Then the bicycle kid from earlier that almost got hit rolls up in his bicycle. They yell at him. He goes inside, and then, like, 5 movie minutes later comes back outside because they've just been standing outside talking about what to do next.
Yeah, and they're like imploring the kid for information, even though, well, Pedro is. Even though, I mean, clearly there's something fucked up about the children, but Pedro doesn't care. Maybe he can get them to talk.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and it's not interesting to watch.
No, it's not.
Yeah. And then, so Bicycle Kid then comes back out. He says that Uriel is at the teacher's house. Then Murta's like, I don't know, what if it's a trap? And then Bruisey Lips McGirlincuddy comes out. She says, no, actually, Uriel's at my dad's house. He wanted to see if he could, like, save him or whatever. And Murta's like, oh, okay, this is obviously a trick. They're trying to convince us to leave. That means that Uriel's right here because I'm a genius. At that point, they figure out the dust thing. There's a hammer nearby, so Pedro starts prying up the boards of the stage when he sees that there's just a pile of adult bodies underneath the stage. They're all coated in the dust.
And not mangled and, like, ripped. That would have been so cool if it was just like a collection of body parts or something. It was such a great opportunity, but no, it's just people covered in white powder.
And so she's like, all right, you gotta get him out of there. You gotta get so he starts pulling up more floorboards. He's like, oh, one of them's still alive. She's like, that doesn't matter. You gotta get him out of there. And we're like, we just saw it took like 3 grown men to get this guy in the truck, and he's covered in bodies, and there's just a tiny hole. So he lifts a body out. He sees just Uriel's head. And she's like, all right, well, you have to insert this crazy stabby part of my awesome... she's assembling her cleaner device, and it looks like... It looks like Leonardo da Vinci is, like, gonna be, like, plotting a course. And she's like, here's a giant spike with a tube or something. You have to insert this into the nape of his neck. And he's like, well, I can't get there. And so there's all this back and forth. The bruised lips little girl from earlier is like, there's a fire axe in the other room. And so he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get that. And she's like, no, don't go get that. She's tricking you. It's obviously a trick. No, wait, don't leave me alone with the kids. No. And so he goes. Of course, there's the axe hole is empty. And as he goes back,
he's a total axe hole.
Oh yeah, Pedro Axhole. Axhole Rose. Nice.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah. And then they've wrapped wire around the doorknob so he can't get back, and he sees through the window that they have now smashed the device and are dragging Murta away as one little kid is using the hammer that he had to smash her in the face over and over again, and they show it happening.
That is awesome. That part is awesome. They just keep doing it very methodically as they're dragging her through an increasingly bloody trail. But at this point, I'm so fucking pissed at Pedro, who is who has to be the dumbest man in the Southern Hemisphere. I mean, It's just like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? This lady is telling you, don't go in there. And he's like, well, I'm just going to go get the axe. I'm not going to go back here. It's like, dude, what the fuck?
This hammer's taking too long. I hate my life. I mean, come on.
God, and then he's standing there listening to Myrta basically dying. And he's kind of like eventually gets the idea, oh, I've been had. Like, oh, you think so, dude?
How do I get through this door covered in glass panes?
How do I open this door loosely tied with a little piece of wire?
He eventually breaks a pane of glass, gets himself out, goes up, and now he's all mad. He picks up one of the cooler pieces of the device. It's a nice blunt object, and Pedro is like saying, kill me, blah, 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 blah. And so he uses it to crush in Uriel's skull. They show it happening. It's a pretty good effect. At times, it looks kind of rubbery and fake. Like watching it, I can't decide if it's a really good practical effect or kind of a silly one. Much like this movie.
Yeah, when it shows him sitting there and his head's all caved in, it looks very rubbery. You know, and honestly, what saves some of these parts, like that part, what saves it from being just shit, is the sounds. The sound effects are great. And if you watch this movie, I strongly recommend wearing headphones and cranking the volume, because sound, it really adds to the gross out factor of this movie.
Even with the rubbery headedness, like, I'm willing to forgive it because it still looks cool.
It does.
It's just a little bit smooshy.
For a movie where the gore effects are almost perfect, it's a bit of a departure.
Yeah. Which it also didn't make sense because at this point, Uriel's head was sticking up out of the hole. So he's just been down there like, shifting his weight so he can poke his head on up, and it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. And now a gore-covered child emerges out of Uriel's blobby husk. And at this point, Pedro has like dropped to his knees, and as the little gore-covered child walks past him, he runs his bloody hands across Uriel's forehead, making 4 blood finger lines across Pedro's skin. And I guess it's supposed to kind of be like the what's it with the Ash Wednesday?
The Ash Wednesday thing.
Yeah.
It's Bad Friday.
Nice. Then the little blood boy walks out into the daylight with all of the children following him out into the field.
Yeah, because now it's full daylight.
Yeah.
Apparently his birthing made the sun come up faster.
They did say, so she did say that time works differently here.
Okay. Fair enough.
But, like, you can't really believe anything that lady says.
Yeah, she couldn't even save her own ass. And she's a fraudster.
Her whole deal is bad.
Yeah.
This would be a great point for the movie to end at.
Yeah.
Instead, back at the house, Pedro breaks the news about Myrta to Jaime, who is upset. One would think that at this point, Pedro learns about Santino, but we never really get that. We see him in the shower. The blood stain won't come off of his forehead. Uriel's little brother is hiding in a barn and confesses to killing the cleaner, cutting up the body to feed to the pigs, and that he ate some of the body himself, and also that their mom has been eaten. And at the table, Jair has a nice little thing of his apple ice cream, but then he starts choking, and Pedro's like, oh, let me go see what's wrong with this fucking kid. And
I know, it's like, what the hell, dude?
And his wife was even like, and you left me with this broken child. It's like, wow, Jesus. Yeah. And so he digs around in Jair's mouth, and all of a sudden, like, there's a giant blood pimple that was in there, and it just, like, pops out blood. And so then he's digging around some more, and he pulls out some hair. He digs around some more, pulls out more hair, and then the kid, just like kind of like a dog with a thing it wasn't supposed to have, spits out something, and it's metal and jangly, and he looks down, and it's grandma's little charm necklace with the little kid charms on it, and there is this great shot where the dad is looking down at the necklace and Jair like does a corner of his eye looking over, so like the absent staring off into the nothingness turns into a is he looking at me? Oh no, he's not. Okay, go back to where I was before. That was awesome.
That was great. I also love the shot on the floor of the like ice cream mixing, like the ice cream spit mixing with the blood, and it was so disgusting looking.
It was gross. Yeah, Pedro goes outside and has a silent breakdown by the pickup truck where Jaime is watching, and movie over.
Yeah, it's so anticlimactic. I mean,
yeah,
it's for a movie that's so menacing and creates so much tension. The fear of the supernatural for me as a viewer. I mean, not like I buy this stuff when I watch movies, but if you watch a movie like The Exorcist, which was made, in the early 70s, it's still disturbing, and that like you feel the threat of evil in that movie. In this movie, you never really feel it. It's like, yeah, okay, evil demons coming, whatever. These people are also dumb. They kind of deserve it, and
yes.
it. But I mean, it's a minor thing overall because I really like the movie, but it definitely starts to slip after the showpiece.
Yeah. There is a grand show put on right around the middle of the movie, and it does fall apart.
It starts strong and it ramps up to the top of the mountain, and then it really just starts to trickle down after that. It's unfortunate, but nonetheless, and I guess we can do what we were talking about last time, where we just give our ratings right away, and then we can chew on this later. Yeah. But look, I gave it a fucking 4.85, despite the problems. I wanted to give this movie a 5, and I just I liked it so much that I still rated it really high. But man, Mr. Rugna, I just want you to know that I'm being very generous, sir. Oh wait, he doesn't give a shit what I think.
I don't think so.
Awesome. It's a really good movie. It's a good movie. It's a great horror movie. It really does fall off in a lot of ways near the end, but it also handles pretty familiar territory in a somewhat unique way, in a pretty original way. But so I give it a lot of credit for that. But anyways, what's your rating?
So I gave it a little bit more conservative, an even 4 out of 5. So that brings it to an 8.85. It's just behind. Let me pull it up. I had it just a second ago. It's just ahead of At Midnight I'll Take Your Soul, and just behind such films as Basket Case, Don't Look Now, The Empty Man, and Death Dream.
That's fair. I mean, I was ready. What the part that I keep glowing about. I was ready to say that this was. This is a pantheon movie that's going to be remembered forever. And maybe it will, but I don't think it will after the second half because it just loses steam.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate because clearly this dude has like an all-time grade up in his noggin somewhere. He just needs to figure out how to get it out.
Yeah. He's got you can see it when you go back and watch Terrified. You can see that he's like doing iterative creativity. Like he loves world building, and he's like, all right, now what if I use these pieces again in this way? And it's really interesting. I'm super excited for the next one. This one, it's just a very cool. One of the things that I liked about it, but it didn't perfectly nail, was it's obvious that he loves zombie movies, and that this is kind of like his departure from zombie movies standard, where they're zombies. So this is like demon possession, but apocalypse disaster zombie movie style, and it's really cool. And he like even went so far, he was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do an explication of the rules of this one. So it's like he's trying to create his own new thing, and it's really cool. It also works in its favor for like cutting it some slack, because think about The Walking Dead. Like, this reminds me a good bit of The Walking Dead, and Pedro reminds me of fucking Andrea from the early seasons of The Walking Dead, the character that only makes the worst decisions, and Pedro is like that. And that's usually a trope in zombie movies. You have to have people there making the wrong decisions because they haven't seen zombie movies, and this guy hasn't seen this movie, and so I forgive it for that, but there are just other parts of it where it's just not hitting. But when it is hitting, it's hitting great. So yeah, the 4 out of 5, it's up there in the like greatness atmosphere. It's just not like peaking up high as it should be, because there was a strong miss on follow-through. And it also could be a cultural thing, you know? Like, it could be, like, true. Some of the references in here, like, it kind of seems anti-religious, and so it could be that, like, this is way more transgressive in Argentina than it is here.
Yeah, no, Argentina is very much a Catholic country, so, I mean, that's... Any film that's dealing with, you know, the horrors of demon possession and that kind of stuff, spirituality and stuff... one of the main characters is a religious fraud. I mean, you know, that's a lot of that stuff is a dig at Catholicism.
Yeah.
Well, you know, whether or not he's a Catholic or not, you know, he's certainly aware of it.
Yeah, he's definitely poking it, and I appreciate that. I love a good poke.
Yeah, don't we all? It's yeah. I mean, another thing that I really like a lot about this movie is that he avoids. Up until the hair pulling out of the mouth thing, he pretty much avoids, well, okay, and the goat, but he pretty much avoids all the obvious tropes of demon possession. There's no hovering people. There's no, there's no exorcist that is sent by the church. But then there's things that he leaves on the table, like this idea that there's this overarching governmental conspiracy to kind of cover up this stuff. Which is a cool idea, I guess. It could be a cool idea, but that's unnecessary.
I think I don't think with that he was actually implying that there was a government conspiracy. I think that was showing that Ruiz is like a conspiracy theory guy, and it was actually...
that makes sense.
It was actually his, like, oh no, this isn't just the government fucking with us, and that's part of what got him, you know, fucked, was he didn't realize that this was actually part of the great mystery of the apocalypse, and he just suspected that people were trying to take his land.
Well, like, I guess, but don't the cops talk about how the ministry sends cleaners out?
Yeah.
That they kind of control the situation. I guess that just means they're aware of it. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a conspiracy. There might be a conspiracy to keep it from the public so they don't freak the fuck out, I guess. But not a nefarious conspiracy, I suppose.
Yeah.
The other thing is, yeah, like you mentioned it being apocalyptic, which it is, and then I read another article where, you know, basically they're trying to stop the apocalypse. But that's not really explicit in this film, that they're trying to stop an apocalypse. Even though, I mean, obviously, if a demon gets loose, you have to imagine it's pretty apocalyptic. But because he steers so clear of dogma, this idea of like a religious, you know, like unleashing evil on the earth it's such a specifically Catholic idea, I guess. I mean, I guess a specifically Christian idea, really. But he doesn't really get into that, which I'm glad he doesn't, because I'm sick of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't buy any of it. So, you know, it has to be done really well for me to be okay with it. He does avoid that, but then he kind of touches on it a little bit. So he lost a step a little bit. Maybe if you see an interview with the guy and he's talking about, you know, look, Terrified for me is kind of a prequel to this movie. And this movie is really kind of the centerpiece of what is going to be a series of movies. The sequel will really kind of bring some of these ideas home. Then I would be like, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's the case. I mean, it you know, you're right. There are a lot of parallels to Terrified in this movie, even though Terrified is very much a different movie. Terrified has a lot of humor in it that this movie kind of... It has some humor too, but not as much.
Yeah, and this one, the humor, like, super doesn't work. Like, I felt like Sabrina, like, Demon Sabrina eating brain chips out of Santino's skull was way too humorous for the situation. Like, it looked silly, it looked like it was a joke gag, but it was also supposed to be this heavy moment where you're watching a child's dead corpse being mutilated. Like, what are we doing here?
Well, I was just going to say, the display of violence, it very much is done in a way that's aware of our, when you have a visceral reaction to something, most people, when they see actual acts of violence, whether it's in person or in a, news thing or whatever, a lot of people feel sick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very visceral reaction. This movie taps that really hard when it shows violence. He's really good at that. But what he's not very good at is making a movie that, in this case, is scary. Because Terrified is much more scary than this, even though I didn't think Terrified was very scary either.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie's scary at all. I think it's more just kind of a thrill ride, like wrapped up in an art film, kind of.
Yeah. It's a little bit more like, Evil Dead, the like first two Evil Deads. They're not scary. They're almost slapstick, but it's still undeniably horror. It's just not like scary until you're like, oh, rape vines, great.
Yeah. I also wonder, a lot of the stuff that I thought was really cool was just seeing Argentina, like, oh, an Argentinian subdivision. That's fascinating. Obviously, people in Argentina, that's not going to work for them.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that kind of, foreign culture thing that makes it kind of fun for me. Another big complaint that I want to say is the characters in this movie are really thin, including Pedro, who has some really cool ideas wrapped up in him, but ultimately he's reduced to either being overly driven or just bullheaded to the point of being annoying. And you're hinging the whole movie on this character, and you obviously, you as in Rugna, really wants the character to matter. Like what happened between him and his ex-wife is kind of, there's this hint that something terrible happened, that he made a horrible decision and he should be in jail for it. Even the cops are telling him about that. But it's never really, it doesn't really matter ultimately. So if it doesn't matter, why is it there? Like, just say he has a restraining order because he's a cocksucker.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. And then he can be torn about it. Like, I'm not a cocksucker. There's something he says where his wife made up something just to get him in trouble. But it's like, what? Where does that come from? Like, there's no... she seems like a victim in this movie of this guy who's a prick. And there's this weird tension when he shows up, which is all released when the dog munches the child's face. That's perfection. But then he just takes away from it by adding these little details that are like hints of something deeper, but that never goes anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it could have something to do with Jair, with like his autism and the fact that a demon is trapped inside of him. Like maybe that's part of it, but we don't really get any of that. And so there's just these little bits of meaninglessness that are like specced in instead of actual character development. And I'm not a fan.
No, me either. But
of that,
I still stand by my high rating because I really, really enjoyed this film a lot. But, the last two films I've rated pretty highly and had, admitted to some pretty serious flaws. So I think I need to chill out on my high ratings a little bit.
It's okay because we still haven't mentioned one of my favorite things. So the axe scene and the dog scene, fantastic. But there's this other element that I am just over the moon about. I love the fact that we have this crazy brass cleaner device, and we get so much screen, like not screen time, but like it's something that's over there, and it's something that they're thinking about, it's something that we're thinking about. We even see her
bookends the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like this obvious centerpiece, and we even like see her playing with it and adjusting dials and shit, and there is no fucking way that if they actually use that device, it's going to be cool at all. It's going to either look like shit, or it's going to be one of those stupid things that movies do where the magic device just shoots out a beam of white fix the moviness, and it sucks. And this would totally suck if it ever get used, and then he doesn't use it. It's smashed, and it's perfect. I did not want to see that device in action, and I got it, and it was so well done.
That's a perfect example of introducing a complex idea and then just tearing it away because it's so dumb.
Yeah.
And like, that act is perfect. It's the thing that he does. And you're right. I do love that too. That is brilliant.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie is peppered and cracked with little flaws all throughout, but overall it's a really strong effort. It's really exciting. It's a lot of fun to watch if you can get over the harm being done to children element of things. And it's just fucking great, and I can't wait for his next movie to come out. I hope it's not starring Pedro. Like, I hope it's not When Evil Lurks 2, The Continuing Adventures of Pedro.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yes. But I would like to see more set either in this horrific apocalypse universe or in one adjacent to it. Like, whatever you're gonna do next, Demián Rugna, we're here for it.
We're here for it. Hopefully, however you get funded for films in Argentina, I don't know if the government gets involved in stuff like that. Whoever has all the money for movies, may they throw all of it at you to make a truly apocalyptic, like, just nightmare of a movie that takes place in Buenos Aires, and is just like a giant epic nightmare. That would be so cool.
Hell yeah, Espiritu Sancti.
Yes.
You done anything else cool in Horrorland, John?
Oh my god. I watched some gluten-free movies. Did we talk about... Oh, yeah, we talked about these movies last time, didn't we? Did we talk about watching Cobweb, or did we just...
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
You'd watched Cobweb, it wasn't great.
It was not great. I finished...
Oh, wait, I think I read that on your Substack, that we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't great. You're right. It had a cool scene in it, but that scene is in the trailer, so if you watch the trailer, you don't need to watch the movie. The boogeyman was terrible, but the monster was cool. You were 100% correct, and that's all you need to know about that movie.
Yeah, basically.
I started to watch Slaughterhouse, and it is fucking terrible. It's not funny.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just garbage. I didn't even get probably a half hour. It's pure shit.
Yeah.
Then what I do want to briefly talk about is we watched Iranian. It was shot in Jordan, but it was made by an Iranian director. A movie called Holy Spider that's on Netflix.
Ooh.
It's based on a true story of an Iranian serial killer that lived in a town that's like a religious center in Iran, and he killed a bunch of prostitutes and believed that he was, doing the Lord's work. And
fuck yeah.
A female reporter, goes to this city to investigate and basically, tracks this guy down. And it's very, very grim and incredibly well made. It's not a horror film, but it's horrifying, and it's the perfect example of a situation where real life is always going to be worse than anything you see in a horror film. It deserves to be seen by the horror community. I don't know that it would be fair for it to usurp a horror film and say like an award show or something, because it's not really a horror film, but my God, that movie is good, and it is daunting. It's
nice.
It's very intense. Hats off to that dude. She won the Best Actress in Cannes with her performance, so it's very much a movie, but anybody could watch it. It's very intense.
Ali Abbasi is the director.
Yeah, that's it, Ali Abbasi. It's fantastic. I highly recommend that movie. How about you?
It's rated NC-17. That's wild.
It's very...
You don't see that every day.
It's very intense. There's graphic sex scenes. There's extremely graphic sex scenes. you know, I mean, he murders prostitutes right in front of you, and it's intense. He strangles them, and it looks real. It's, I mean, not that I've ever seen someone strangled, but you really feel bad for the actress. Like, you're like, Jesus, what is that? That's a little rough. Is that okay? I mean, it's very intense. That's not, I mean, I'm not saying that's a good thing. But to serve the story, you know, it's amazing. It's a really good film.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy Spider, you've been out too long in the Middle Eastern Sea.
They call him the Spider, if I remember correctly, because he lures them back to his lair. He brings them back to his home. He's a construction worker. He lives with his wife and children. And whenever, like, he finds excuses to get them out of the house or whatever, you know, like they're going to go see a movie and, I'm going to stay home. And then he goes cruising for prostitutes and brings them home and kills them in his own house. It's pretty intense.
Nice. Yeah. Started to watch Insidious, The Red Door, and I just turned it off basically immediately because I could not bring myself to give a shit.
Really? It was that bad?
The movie starts out where it's like, all right, and now after the events of movies 1 and 2, here's father and son, and they get themselves hypnotized so that they will forget the events related to the first 2 movies so that they just won't remember that that's going on. And then it's like, skip forward 10 years. He's an angry teenager about to go away to college, and he's kind of a shit dad, and now they're divorced, and their family's torn apart, and they don't remember that they have I was like, oh yeah, very fuck you to this movie. I don't feel like watching them not realize that they have these supernatural powers and have to, like, go through things because of your stupid little movie setup. No, thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like a writer was like, you know, what can we do to, you know, here's an idea that's not really good, but we can do this.
Yeah.
It's not James Wan, I assume. Did he make it? I doubt it.
I have no idea. I hope not, because he does awesome movies, and this movie blew chunks. Well, the first, like, 20 minutes of the movie blew chunks, because I stopped watching.
He's one of those guys that's hit or miss. Like, he makes a good movie, it's awesome. He makes a bad movie, it's complete garbage.
True.
Yeah.
And I watched The Omen all the way through for the first time.
The original?
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
I was bored.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like an age thing, because I saw it when I was a kid, so of course it scared me.
Yeah. Yeah, and also part of it is that it's, like, such a central movie that, like, everything copies it. Every time I saw Demián, I was just like, oh man, I wish I was listening to AC/DC instead of watching this movie.
That's awesome. I remember those movies, like there was The Final Conflict, I think, that was with Sam Neill, who plays grown-up Demián, so it was kind of awesome because he's really good at playing evil. And those movies were bad, but they're really schlocky and kind of fun. There's even like a contemporary remake of The Omen that I actually think isn't bad, with like Liv Schreiber, and you know, it should be terrible. I mean, it is terrible, but I should hate it, but I actually enjoy it. So maybe I just have a soft spot for, because that stuff's been ripped off so many times that when you watch that movie, it feels like a rip-off. You know, it's like, even though it's the one that started all this shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, in my opinion, it doesn't hold a candle to Rosemary's Baby. Like, Rosemary's Baby does a way better job of, like, building tension, and you have sympathy for a character. And in this one, you don't give a shit about Gregory Peck. He's just going around being a total asshole to everyone. And,
that's true.
There's good parts in it. It's just like, I don't care. But
it's like a mainstream version of something that's supposed to be intense, like Rosemary's Baby, kind of.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of Don't Look Now, where it's just like a whole lot of a guy walking around to Europe for no good reason.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I found out about a movie that I haven't finished watching it yet because it's in French, and I wasn't able to, like, pay attention. It's called Subway. It's from 1985. It's directed by Luc Besson, the guy that did The Fifth Element and a bunch of other crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And it stars Isabelle Adjani, and at the time, he was credited as Christophe Lambert.
Oh, that movie is awesome. I thought that's what you were talking about. I love that movie. I couldn't remember. I knew he was in it, so I was like, I don't remember the other stuff. But yeah, that movie kicks ass.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go in and watch that as soon as I have some time because that movie looks fucking great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Wow.
Yeah. And so that's what we've been doing in other movies. John, I believe you have our next movie ready to go for what is our next episode in 2 weeks. I don't know what it is. John, what is it?
Well, this movie came out in 1981. I was pretty young, but I remember when it came out. I remember seeing trailers for it. I didn't understand the trailers. I wasn't even scared by them because I was like, what? And the name sounded hilarious to me, but I've never watched it, and it's one of those movies I always forget about and I want to see. A guy at work found out I like horror movies, and he's been, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? And then he gives me lists of things that I need to see, and I'm like, dude, there's no way I can keep up with all of this. And then he mentioned, have you seen The Boogans? Just came out of nowhere, and I'm like, The Boogans? I need to watch The Boogans. And I still haven't watched it, but we're going to do that for the next episode. It's almost certainly terrible. But it very firmly fell in that weird motel hell, The Boogans. Just like those bizarre, obscure horror movies that came out in the 80s where they were just throwing shit against a wall. Chud. I almost picked Chud, by the way.
Oh, Chud, yes. Oh.
I love Chud. Chud is like, oh my god, it's John Goodman. Oh my god, it's this person. Like, the first time you see a lot of actors are in Chud. This was one of those, like in the 80s, they always used the serious guy voice for the trailer. Yeah. And I distinctly remember the voice from the trailer going, watch out for the Boogans. It's like, Boogans? Like, that's one letter away from boogers. You couldn't come up with a better name.
Not scary, my guy.
Boogans. Yeah, I've never seen it. I'm pretty psyched.
Nice. It's going to be a whole experience. Well, tune in 2 weeks after you have watched The Boogans, unless we find out of a major content warning, in which case maybe you shouldn't have watched it beforehand. We'll find out in 2 weeks on the next episode of Loathsome Things. Go be good, and also...
I'm sorry you all have to be muerte.
That's good.
Stupid.